Alright, cool. So, I can't do this on Instagram Live today, but it's probably higher quality to just do it on my phone, anyways, like my regular camera. I'm just gonna pause if anyone comes in, because anytime I have a solo shift at my job, um, I kind of have a lot of free time, on certain times of the day, so I just like, I'm gonna do something with it. So, that being said, topic of the day: don't smoke weed. Now, a lot of people will see this video and just throw as many pro weed facts as they can. It's ironic I work at a smoke shop. I'm not saying everyone can't smoke weed, but 9 times out of 10, you're not the exception to that. Especially if you're young. Just don't. There's a lot of cuts in this video. It's because I'm on my job. I have to do things when people come in. That being said, I'm gonna still get on to the point. I'm not gonna keep saying that like I have to cut. So if there's a cut and I just start talking again, like that's how it is. Now, why don't you smoke weed? Why is smoking weed a bad idea? When you are enjoying something, we can all agree, like, let's kind of derail a minute, but it's still on the same point. When you're like watching a TV show, or you're like imagining something, you're reading a comic, a manga, anime, whatever the fuck you're doing, you notice that those characters are living. There's not a TV show about someone just smoking weed. And if there is, they're going on an adventure while doing it. It's like quirky. Like being high is making them make mistakes they have to fix. They're living, they have conflict. They'll usually learn something in the end, even if it seems like they didn't learn anything. You can learn something from it, probably. There's a moral. There's a life being lived. In all of reality, you're kind of drooling looking at the screen when that's happening. You're not creating anything. You're not inspiring anyone or anything like that. And as you get older, because like most people start their addiction when they're young. As you get older, you're gonna. I'm just gonna be blatant. You're gonna be a pretty miserable person that is miserable to other people. You're gonna be not very smart, but you're gonna think you're smart. But then you're gonna like also be super insecure. Everything is going to be pretty much just like you being super lame, wasting all of your money on this weed. You're not going anywhere. You have no creative output. You're essentially setting yourself up for failure and resentment towards everyone. You're not going to be happy if you don't have weed. If you don't have weed, your only ambition is to find it. You're going to be miserable like if you don't have it. That the thought of taking a tea break for you is insanely hard, but then I'm willing to bet a lot of you won't even be able to admit that you're addicted to it. That's a problem. And this is a controversial take. I know it because back in the days where I actually posted on Reddit for some reason, don't do that either. Even though it's not as bad as smoking weed for a lot of people, it's still pretty bad. Don't fucking post on Reddit. But I was trolling. Okay, posted on the Reddit forum. I was like, you guys are addicted, just making fun of them, saying how they don't want to admit they're addicted and shit. People were arguing so much in that post. There was 1,000 comments of people just getting pissed off. And dude, do you really want to be akin to a Reddit poster? Do you want to be that guy? You want to be that guy that has similarities to someone that argues online about whether or not them smoking weed is cool or not? They're gonna bombard you with all the health benefits. First of all, most of these people aren't smoking weed because they're in pain or they have PTSD or whatever the fuck. They're just doing it because they're bored as fuck. They started when they were like fucking 15 or 16 or whatever the age they were. It doesn't matter. And then they're just like, they're hell-bent on only pointing out the positives of it and none of the negatives. And there are plenty of negatives. There are. They just go undersaid. And it's ridiculous. Now, do I think weed should be illegal? Yeah. Like, we shouldn't be throwing motherfuckers in prison for smoking weed. That's not the point of this video. The point of the video is that we undertalk how bad it is. We undertalk how bad most drugs are. And if we talk about how bad drugs are, usually is we're not even being accurate about it. Like police, this is a derailment, but it's gonna be short. Police will say like, oh, they like walked into a room of fent and breathed in the fent chemicals and now they're passed out and have to go to ER. That's not fucking real. Like they'll lie. Like they'll either Hold on. Sorry for another cut. Anyways, back to the point. People I've known in real life, just as a personal example, people are gonna be like, oh, personal, whatever the fuck. I don't care. I don't care about whatever bias system you look at. You smoke weed, and you probably don't even understand how to use those biases correctly. That being said, a lot of people are cool on weed. You're probably not, especially if you're watching this video and getting all mad about it. People who are good on weed or will click this video with an open mind being like, maybe he has a point. If he doesn't, I'll call him out. I'll be cool about it. If you're in the comment section seething, you're not one of those people. Your brain is fried and you probably should stop. And I'll give you a personal example. Okay? And go ahead and research it. This is common because I have researched it too, which is something you probably don't want to do because you're fried on weed as well. Your brain is better on TikTok. I don't want to be too mean, but I gotta force this into your head. Okay? My friends who started smoking weed as a kid that introduced me into weed and shit like that, they're not doing well. They're quiet. They seem insecure. Like, they'll hear about your interests and they'll seem passive. And even if they're trying to not be passive, you can tell they're seething with a bit of passiveness they can't let go of. You'll tell them about your interests, what you're doing, right? Not this backhanded approach to it that's so passive. They'll be like, oh, that's what you're into? Get really quiet, like the most autistic thing you can imagine. Even though I like autistic people, this is just like a negative trait of autism that needs to be overcome through therapy that I'm mentioning. They'll fucking like sit there in silence, like contemplating why they feel negative emotions because they are too fried on weed to actually like figure their brain out and like go through their demons because the demons are controlling them. Weed gets you stuck in your own unconscious. That's why you can't dream. You're dreaming in the waking day when you smoke weed. Fact. Takes away those chemicals that help you dream. Fact. Look it up. Because I'm going through biases, which is probably what you're trying to tell me. So on a YouTube video, they're going to be so passive. You can tell when someone just doesn't really support you. They want to bring you down. They want to see you on their level so they can relate to you more and feel better about themselves. And that's just not going to happen. People want better things for themselves and they see people that aren't, especially people they were friends with in high school. They haven't been able to get more friends because they're fucking fried. They're going to be so fucking weirdly resentful. They're going to want to relate. They're going to want to seem like they're doing something right because they can't handle failure. They can't, it's like they can't handle this failure. The truth is, dude, you're probably sort of young watching this video. If you're like fucking 22 or 18 or 20 or whatever the fuck, 16 even, who gives a fuck? If you're fried at that age, consider yourself lucky, dude. Take it as a lesson. You can figure shit out. But if you're over here seething, you're not going to. And I keep mentioning this. It's because I know how y'all motherfuckers are. I've experienced it firsthand. Y'all are really hard to talk to. We're convinced. Y'all don't listen. Y'all only want to hear the good things about something and never the bad. But you always have something bad to say about other people or other things. And that's if you're not too insecure to say it out loud, or if you're not if you actually just straight up smoked weed so much that you forgot to pay attention in English class and you don't even know how to phrase your criticisms, but also you don't know how to fucking think about your criticisms. You just feel resentment and like you don't know what to do with it. So like you have to be right. You're always right. You have some weird sort of very immature unconscious narcissism. You have not grown past that point, which is why you won't be able to actually tell or take anything I'm saying serious if it hurts you. And I'm sorry to say that. I genuinely have gone through the same thing. And I've seen people go through the same thing. This isn't applying to everyone. People are going to be like, this doesn't apply to me. It probably still does. Maybe it doesn't. But it probably would apply to you if you got defensive enough to say it doesn't apply to you, instead of saying, oh, this doesn't happen to me, but I can see how it happens to other people, or I haven't heard of this is interesting, but for me personally, those are the type of people where I'd be like, maybe they're the outlier. No, if you're seething, you're not a fucking outlier if you're seething. People that get angry at shit, too angry, you know. Those are not the people who are the mascots of why weed is the best drug. Those are not the people who would get hired for an ad campaign about weed, why weed's the best drug. Have you seen the ads for weed and like countries or whatever, like Instagram posts for Delta in Texas or anything like that, or wherever around? They're all happy using it for sleep. They're all like kind of goofy. They're all kind of like quirked up, and then you can tell that they're not like totally fried. You don't ever see a commercial where someone's just like sitting drooling watching their TV and then like looking at their friend passive aggressive when they say their life's going slightly more positive than the other guy's life is. Oh, you've actually like made some adjustments to your life. So something's good is actually happening for you. Let me just not look into my. Let me just not look into why I might be feeling jealous about it and deny I'm jealous, and then just like be super passive aggressive. Like that's not normal by any means. It's not. And that's just the basis of it, of how you're obviously not good. You're obviously not okay to like most of society. All right. But then we're getting into other stuff, like how you're not okay for yourself, how you're not doing the best for yourself, even if you're not like totally even if you're like not miserable all the time, how you're not going beyond and doing something better for yourself to be happier. The people you look up to and media, right, or just anywhere, those people are not like you. Excuse me. If you actually want to be someone that people can look up to, or have traits someone else has that you look up to, you cannot think properly when you're smoking. You're going to be sitting there and basically like praising. You're basically like somebody off. You know what I mean? Like it's like really strange. It's really weird. And it's even weirder that you don't realize this, because you never properly develops your brain. Part of developing your brain is like conscious input, like actual effort. If you're spending especially your early years, but like just at all in general during any of your development years, even past your development years, because you develop even past then, just more advanced stuff. But you have to at least stay like fucking good until you're 30 to be like fucking like useful or anything like that. Like you are not going to actually understand the people you look up to. It's going to be some mystical thing to you. That's not good. That's not good at all. That's fucking really sad, actually, because you're not applying anything you're learning. You're actually like being really, how would I describe it? You're projecting really hard, to use one of those weird psychology words. It doesn't fucking matter. You're projecting super fucking hard. What you think something is not what it actually is, right? But you wouldn't be able to know that because your brain didn't develop properly to fucking figure that out. It didn't. I'm sorry to say. You can still fix it, but you're not going to fix it by seething in my comment section. You're not. I want you to get help. I don't even think being mean to you is the best approach to it, but I think it's a good start to really put it out there that this isn't the best thing for you. Smoking is not the best thing for you. Doing any drugs at all like that is not the best thing for you. Why do you do drugs to begin with, though? That's the question. It's probably because you somewhat miserable, somewhat bored. Want to try something. You probably live in like some dead end town or something like that. Not a lot's going on, right? Create something. Write down how you feel. Go outside and walk. Take pride in how you can have self-control. Because realistically, instead of smoking weed and eating like Frosted Flakes and watching like weird anime and shit, you should fucking be like eating healthy. going outside, writing how you feel and stuff, bothering people about it, and then maybe you can talk to people once you know how to articulate yourself and not like victim blame. No, not victim blame. That's the wrong word. Not like have self pity. Maybe relate to others and things. You can actually socialize that way. But right now, I'm willing to bet anytime you're venting, you don't know how to, so you're just being all fucking sloppy and weird and not taking any advice. And then you're going on to like do shit like smoke weed because that's the only thing that makes you feel better. But then here's where it gets weird. Eventually down the line, this is going to start seeking into your unconscious. For a lot of people, at least, this is a very possible, not even a possible, this is a thing that happens a lot that not a lot of people even talk about, but it happens a fucking lot. Weed will lead you into psychosis, especially if you're already prone to it. Especially if you have stuff like BPD or bipolar or anything, weed will lead you into psychosis. And this is going to be shaping your worldview, not only based on how you're already biased and projecting, not only, but it's mainly like an upgraded version of that. Dude, the whole fucking world is going to be hyper scary. And then you're going to be right about everything. You're going to start noticing that it's harder to think outside the box because you've already put yourself in the box to agree too much with yourself. You could be thinking too bad of people you disagree with. And once you get to the point where you maybe can develop some empathy for those people at some point, because that's what happens when you get older. Part of your logic is developing empathy, believe it or not. Even though a lot of you want to know that. You're going to start going down this path where you're scared to make mistakes. If you make mistakes as a major, or someone is making you make mistakes, or either blaming others too much, or you're blaming yourself too much, and you're not developing that way, you're like digressing. You're digressing to the point where you're literally lowering your IQ. You're becoming like a actual fucking. It's sad. That's what I'm trying to say. Making connections that aren't there. Spending no time awake. Not knowing how to even accomplish any of the dreams that you or thoughts you might have when you're like smoking. Not really having any sort of ambitions or thoughts or anything like that you can actually put out there in like a clean way. You become sort of like this weird poet that you're too stuck in this realm to the point where you're not structuring things to your benefit. More so, you're confusing everyone with anything you create. If you're an artist, or if you're not an artist, you're confusing anyone with your methods of doing something that can be helpful, if you're even trying to do something helpful. And then you're confusing anyone if you're not doing anything at all. People are like too put onto this stupid weed propaganda that their kids that are living, there's fucking like over 25-year-old or whatever the fuck kids that are living in their parents' houses and shit with nothing going for them, by the way, because sometimes people, you gotta do what you gotta do in this modern generation. Some people don't try though. Some people will fucking defend this weed with their life because they have not developed their brain properly at all. They've likely even digressed. It's messy. It's sad. It's really fucking sad. And the thing is, you can do something about it. There's a solution. If it's bad to the point where you have psychosis, you're gonna have to go to the mental hospital. That might not be you. You watching this video, that might not be you. But I know a lot of people that might be watching this as you. You're gonna have to go to the mental hospital. Now, some of you, maybe not so much prone to psychosis. Maybe you're just the type that like eats super unhealthy, smokes too much weed because you're not that guy. You're not that guy that can do that. super lazy, super passive aggressive. I want you to ask yourself, how happy am I when I'm not smoking weed? How happy am I for others genuinely? And not just like, oh, how happy can I make myself for others if I actually think about it? No, when you're not thinking about it, how do you feel? Do you feel unhappy for others? You have to fix that. Don't lie to yourself either. If you feel like you're trying to like do some mental gymnastics, that you're lying to yourself. Okay, let's get that out of the fucking way. You're lying. Don't do that. And then it's shit like, what else? I'm gonna pause and think about what I was gonna say. And then you're even going to realms like, oh well, when I smoke, I eat healthy. I go to the gym. Cool. What else? Like I can do things well. I do things better on weed. Economically speaking, do you have a lot of money? Given everything's going for you, are you spending more money than you can save on weed because you do things better on weed? And then we're talking about dependency here. When you say I work better on weed, that's kind of the equivalent of saying like, oh, I work better when I do cocaine, because a lot of people say that, by the way. But no, it's a drug. It's not a drug. It's not, because a lot of people say that as well about weed. You are hurting your lungs. If you're really a health buff and you're saying like, oh, weed is helping me do this or that, at least consider the fact, if you're being fully honest with yourself, like you actually don't have issues. Like you're one of those guys that can smoke weed and not have mental issues and shit. At least ask yourself, at the very least, 1, am I making enough money to do this? 2, do I really want to live off a dependency? And 3, can I live without this? And what does it feel like to live without it? If you're doing better on it, that's cool. But how are you off of it? How are you off of it? And that's a good question. And another good question. Well, think about this. This is for the same people that I was talking about before I did the pause. Are your friends? Are your most close or even only friends people that also smoke weed? Have you ever gotten out of that circle? Do you have a close friend? Which is the more important thing to say, because a lot of you might have friends that don't smoke weed. Yeah, you have friends that don't smoke weed. That's cool. Do you have a really close sober friend? Do you? Important question. Want to know why? Because you're biased. You don't have an outside reference. Do you have and let's get more into that question, because a lot of sober people are still fucking fried. Do you have a mentally well-adjusted, respectable, maybe has some mistakes, doesn't have to be perfect, but a sober friend that is well-adjusted, stable, on their shit, like nice, at the very least? Do you have one of those friends? And like, people that smoke weed can be like that, but do you have a sober one? I asked that question because these are some of the checklists to show like how good could you actually be doing in life, realistically. Let's say you got sober friends. They're a good reference. You take after them. You're not fucked up in the head. You don't have any predisposition. You're not going through psychosis. You can be nice to people. You're pretty smart. You're good at any of your jobs. You're creative. You have good sorting skills. You have good time management. All that other skills. You're a well-rounded person, but you smoke. All of this. You have a good money source. All of this. We're assuming all of this. Now, you smoke every day. We've already asked this, but if you smoke every day, you're not part of this, is what I'm trying to say. Like, you have to be able to prove to yourself that you don't have an addictive personality. If you have one, you're still part of the group. That is very concerning. No, but like, then we're still getting back into, okay, you're perfectly healthy. You check all the boxes off that you're healthy. Are you not concerned? Are you not scared of lung cancer? Are you not scared of possible diseases you can get? Especially if your family's more prone to them. If your family's more prone to them, yeah, like, is your family prone to these diseases? Do you know? That's another thing to check off. Is this gonna be healthy for you physically? And no smoke is healthy for you physically, technically. But if you're smoking, word of advice, at the very least, don't use a fucking gar. Don't use fucking gars and shit. If you're gonna use papers, like the cheap route, use a fucking some unbleached shits, some thin papers. You know, shit doesn't get gunky. And honestly, you should be using a herbal vaporizer. Or you drink a lot of water. You just drink a lot of water. Are you getting regular, like semi-regular mental health checkups or health checkups? Do you actually know if you're healthy? Do you? Are you going to out of your way to do these things? Do you trust your plug? Do you know if your plug's lacing you or not? Are you funding a plug that's lacing other people? Ethical standpoint right there. That's an ethical standpoint. Is your source unethical? Is it? Do you feel like you can get more out of life if you stop smoking, even if you're doing well? Do you feel like you still have things that you can do better in life, even if you've pretty much done a lot of the things that you already have to do in life, to where you can live comfortably, but you still have those like kind of ambitions? Is weed making you too relaxed to go out there and do those things? Are we asking the right questions? Or are we asking no questions? Are we asking like half the questions? That's a good point to the video. People hold too much of a bias. People are too quick to be offended. People need to look at the facts. You, in fucking 100 different ways, could be fucking yourself over and not being admitting or realizing any of them. We're not caring about any of them. You know, weed is going to encourage you to eat more. Not to saying eating more is bad, but when you're eating more processed foods. And I went over this, but I'll say it again. When you get the munchies, as a lot of these fucking weed heads say, are you eating like healthy food? Or are you fucking pouring a bowl of fucking Frosted Flakes from cow milk that is like bottom of the barrel fucking farm treatment? Like you're drinking like cow milk that fucking the animals get like horrible shots and they get too fat and they're treated like shit. Are you drinking like evil cow milk? Do you consider your diet? Like, what type of shows are you watching when you're smoking? Like, unwinding and shit. Let's say you're with that type. You watch a show. Are you watching like negative shows or just like bullshit shows? Are you learning anything? And even if you're not learning anything, are you watching like some negative show? Some really stupid shit? Are you watching the news? God forbid you're watching the fucking news. Just get out of the cycle, bro. Get out of that cycle. That's addiction on addiction. You're like mixing your substances here. You don't realize how bad that is. Everything is taken to this extreme. But people will say, oh, there's been no deaths from weed because they don't consider lung cancer a death from weed. That's dumb. Lung cancer caused by weed is a cause of death from weed. Suicide because of overwhelming psychosis can be considered a cause of death from weed. But people have this idea in their minds that if you're not immediately dying off of it because it's prohibiting your breathing or some stupid other shit, you're not dying because of weed. Actually, my Rick and Morty brain told me that this is the cause of death and this isn't. Stop limiting yourself. Lung cancer will kill you. Suicide will fucking kill you. And there's a fucking huge correlation to these things and those things. It can happen. It might be like a lot more rare than a lot of people put on, but it still fucking happens, and you need to consider it. Unless you're a dumbass. And this next part is just for the people that don't smoke weed, or have before, or like know how to handle themselves. You have one of those friends that just smokes too much and they shouldn't? In the comment section, I want you to just like describe them, your situation, like really do it. Last thing, Reagan organization and all that, they were doing the propaganda against drugs, all that shit or whatever. You know how it went. It was shitty. It was bad. Which is why the reason a lot of the slogans or ideas that came out during that era were kind of rejected with the whole bunch because that slogan like one bad apple ruins the whole bunch. Yeah, but you want to know why? It's because that has to do with like a disease spreading through humans, not ideas. An idea standalone is not something that can contract a disease. Your perception of the idea can, though. So the idea that something like weed is a gateway drug, that is true. You just want to say it's not because it's grouped in with a bunch of other ideas. But that doesn't make the whole bunch bad, because an idea cannot contract a disease. Your perception of it can, though, because you're alive. The idea, plain and simple, is that if you smoke weed, which a lot of people do as their first drug, they're going to get the weed from a plug that sells other drugs. Every plug I've ever fucking had has sold other drugs. You're going to see their menu. You're going to be hanging around people who've also seen their menu and probably have gone and got the other drugs. All of a sudden, you're taking psychs. All of a sudden, you're fucking on the street with a needle in your arm. All of a sudden, you have the worst smelling breath ever. If you know what I mean. All of a sudden, you fucking ruined your life because your plug sold something other than weed. That is how the gateway works. It's not that weed is whispering in your ear, oh, do this, do that. No, it's not. It has to do with peer pressure. The idea spread through people. This doesn't have to do with the ideas it was grouped in with. It doesn't have to do with the shitty propaganda methods where they came to your school and told you where to get drugs and what they did to you, and then left after saying they're bad. That is not what they're grouped in with. Drugs are fucking gateways to other drugs. People will fall for that. A lot of people have addictive personalities. You know where that comes from? Like shitty lives growing up. Lack of a father figure and shit. Like lack of love. You're gonna get love from somewhere. Or you get too much love and you have, or not too much love. You just have discipline, whatever the fuck. You're gonna fall into drug use for some reason or another. People want to say it's not a gateway. Dude, you can't even trust your shit is not laced anymore. And you're saying it's not a gateway. It's a dumb argument. If you want to actually support weed, yeah, there's a lot of benefits. There are. Genuinely. But you don't say any of the fucking cons. You don't. You have zero. You mention them none of the time. And when I say you, I don't mean you watching. I mean like the people who are gonna feel offended after they hear me say this. Those people. Those people. Don't fucking mention any of the cons. You don't. And that's neglectful. That's a bad thing. You are being used by some weird fucking psychological demon to promote something you don't understand. If you are not doing the best you think you can do, and you're trying to tell people that what you're doing is fine, just know that one, you're either taking advantage of someone who could have a better father figure or mother figure than you, considering your stance, or you just sound like an idiot to whoever you're talking to, and you're gonna wonder why they don't want to talk to you again. It's because you sound like an idiot. You're gonna wonder why the person you recommended this or that was really persuaded easily is gonna end up shitty. Or if not, you're just gonna feel good because you don't have to like feel like anyone's better than you. You're gonna be like, oh, this person's doing bad. This makes me feel better about myself because you're like stuck in this weird negativity. Get over that shit. Stop. If you are, if after watching this whole video you didn't check off like almost 90% of the boxes of you being fine when smoking weed, fucking quit. Quit it. Do something better for yourself. Improve. You have time. You probably have time. Fucking go for your dreams. Actually develop your brain. Look for a father figure. Practice self-discipline. Figure out why you're such like a negative person that is so happy when others are doing bad. Figure out why you're so offended. Why being offended is such a core part of you. Figure that out. Figure out why you feel shitty all the time. It's probably because of what you eat, and probably because you can't get the proper sleep, or because REM sleep is actually healthier for you. You've destroyed your REM cycle. Figure out why you're lazy, why you don't want to do shit. Figure out why you're just like not where you want to be, where you should be. In your case, it's probably because of weed. People, and the last point on this video I'm gonna make is, just because you don't check one or two boxes doesn't mean you don't need to stop. Just because someone's doing worse than you doesn't mean you're not doing shitty, or that you can't do shitty as them or more in the future, because you can. Stop comparing yourself to others. Compare yourself to the best version of yourself you can be, and get at that. Get at it. Don't feel all groggy and depressed about it. Make it happen. Break the cycle. I genuinely care about you. Whoever's watching this, I care about everyone. If you're getting mad at this, why? Literally, why? I cannot figure out why, unless you were some type of mentally ill, that you couldn't understand how simple this is. It's pretty fucking simple. And stop acting like drug dealers are fucking saints. 9 times out of 10, they're not fucking saints. We have this idea that like supporting small business, blah blah blah. You're supporting people who would have been like fucking techno billionaires if they could, but they're not as intelligent, so they're just like minorly evil. That's at least half the time. Some of them aren't. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all of them are. I know a few chill people. But dude, get this idea out of your brain. Quit weed. If by the end of this video you've realized like it's not a net positive for you. It isn't. Eat healthier. Go outside. Read. You should read 100%. Write down how you feel. Be nice to people, genuinely. Conquer your demons. Look at your flaws and change them. Be nice to yourself too. Always. Look for a good mother and father figure. Put in the work. Get everything together. And it's not going to happen in one day. So don't like feel like this is hyping you up and then you're going to fail again. One step at a time. What can you do right now? What can you do right now? Figure that out. Do it. Do it tomorrow. And that's all I'm going to say really on that topic. I hope you're not writing an angry comment in my comments. And if you are, you probably won't stop at like 2 minutes in the video anyways, because you have TikTok brain. So if you're watching till the end, 9 times out of 10, you're either okay as a person or have the capacity to change to be better, which means you're okay as a person and you're gonna get like way better. So like big ups to you. leave your experiences in the comments so the people that go to the comments to leave hate, we'll see how much people actually agree and describe them in ways that make them uncomfortable, because that's going to help them change. It will. When people can see their own reflection in a way that isn't projection. So please leave comments like that. Please. Anyways, for real this time, I'm out. Another video I made in. See ya.